everybody, welcome back to my channel. Sorry about the clicking. Today we have the Marauders Map Cup. It says I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. I'm sorry it's so crooked. I am totally laying flat today. I'll tell you all about it. Let's take our first sip together because, coffee. I miss coffee cups. Hi. There might be a few tears in this video. Warning. Emotional alert. I know that today is Sunday and I am 1 week away from my MRI. I hope it's not a hard week, but it's been a really, really rough last couple of days. I have not been sleeping. You know, I think I vlogged last when I woke up from a really great sleep. Or maybe the day after, I'm not sure. But the other night I had a really great night's sleep. Like a really great night's sleep. And I woke up and I felt so good in the morning that I didn't even put my Voltaren cream on. And I felt so good that I wanted to go to the bathroom by myself and take care of myself. And I ended up hurting myself. Please don't. Sorry. I didn't want to come on here and just cry. I feel both dumb and regretful, obviously. But I just feel helpless too because I feel like, I felt good enough to actually help myself, and I ended up making it worse. And I just hope I actually didn't do any damage. I have one prescription that I was trying to call CVS for, but I realized that they just opened. It's Sunday and it's just 10:20 or something. And they open at 10 o'clock. Because my doctor prescribed a medication. Just bear with me with a little math if you can. 4 grams, 4 times a day for 30 days. And they gave me 100 grams. Now, I'm not sure if she prescribed 100 grams or if they prescribed if they gave me 100 grams. I'm not really sure, but math tells you that 4 grams 4 times a day is 16 grams a day. And 100 grams is 7 days, 8 days, right? 80, yeah, like something around there. So, and I actually didn't use it one day, the day that I was feeling really good. I didn't actually even use it just but one time. And so I don't know, I was on hold for a while and I realized that what time it was and how they're probably super busy when they first opened. So I said I remind you to call them back later. But I'm really mad at myself because I'm in pain again. Like, I'm uncomfortable. I can't get comfortable. I feel like it's just when I first heard it and I had the other dose of medication, I'm just constantly shifting. I am just constantly moving, like just to try to get comfortable, find a position. It's really frustrating. It's very frustrating, but it's also painful. So I'm not as frustrated as I am in pain, if that makes any sense. But yeah, there's frustration, another level of that too. And then I started to realize the best day that I had the least amount of pain was the day that I slept the most. So in fact, I figured that sleeping less is affecting it more, but it's the pain that's waking me up. So I'm like, I don't know, like it's like a vicious circle where the pain doesn't allow you to get sleep. And then the sleep, not having enough sleep makes you be in more pain and vice versa. And it keeps going around and around. So I'm still continuing to appreciate all that I have, obviously. Jim has started to work in the office via FaceTime, which has worked out okay so far. We just like whenever Jim and I start a new project in a way that, you know, that we've never done before, it takes he's got like a little growing pains, like a little bit of adjustment to try to figure out the best way. I guess we both do, to try to figure out the best way to communicate with each other. So he set up the FaceTime, and then I was talking to him about like my plans and what I wanted to do, but then he was like, stop giving me instructions. And I was like, well, why am I set up on FaceTime if I'm not there to, I was confused by what it was his idea to do FaceTime too. So he's like, well, just be here if I need you. I said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. So I was just there, and when he got to the thing where he started asking me about stuff, I was like, no, yes, no, yes, no, whatever. So, so far so good. But you know, he hasn't been working around the house in a couple of weeks because of my injury. Actually, since before we went to Texas. I mean, he's been like house cleaning, but not doing any big projects. I think we talked about that, like work days and project days or whatever. But he hasn't really been doing any like moving or lifting or heavy, you know, using muscles like that he's letting get like atrophied or whatever. So he got tired from just standing there for about 15 minutes, and he didn't want to finish decorating the area. So we have to finish that, and then go back in the office and finish that bookcase. And so the bookcase behind where I'm sitting is the project that we're working on next, where I sit at the desk. So we get those bookcases moved from both sides. Then he said he can actually start ripping up the carpet, but I don't know. We'll talk. I don't really know exactly what all he wants to do. So we'll talk about it a little bit, you know. Anyhow, what was I going to say? The sweetest gift I was gifted I feel like I could do a whole video on like Jeri-Ann, and I could do a whole video on my friend Miss Kay, and I could do a whole video on my friend Elisa, and just tell you all what you mean to me, that YouTube has brought you into my life and what you've meant to me. But I don't know if that would be something you would want or appropriate, or but I feel so blessed. I feel so truly, truly blessed to have you all in my life. It's just amazing. Let's see. I will tell you one thing, and I think this is like probably a pre-apology, but the lack of comfort makes my brain, I'm sorry, I have an itchy belly button. Itchy belly button. Well, it's not my belly button, but that area. The lack of itchy nose. Now, what is happening? The lack of comfort is constantly searching for comfort. Sometimes my brain doesn't focus on something, is what I was trying to say. Because I'm like, I can't concentrate because the pain type of thing. But I need to talk to you guys because I need to get some stuff out. I wanted to talk a little bit about the last vlog. The last half of that vlog, the second vlog that I did the other day, was kind of like, it had a couple of people who were, I guess, questioning my motives. I guess that was, I really don't have any motives other than I care about you guys and I care about the world. And I worry. I mean, I don't worry myself sick, but I'm concerned that you all are being safe and doing what you can. And I wanted to say that one of the things that were brought into question was my Christianity, which is kind of funny. To me, it's always funny when somebody questions my Christianity, because that just doesn't mean that I'm not a Christian. That just means I'm not your kind of Christian, which is judgmental and not Christian-like, but that's beside the point. But I've often said I don't follow other Christians. I follow Christ. Like, that's what kind of Christian I am. And that's the kind of Christian that I hope everybody aspires to be, not like other Christians. Like, and the other thing I also say is I'm not an American Christian. I'm a Christian in America, because American Christians have taken Christianity and done something totally different with it. Almost weaponized it a little bit, And I'm sorry if this offends you, but I'm not sorry if it offends you, because I get really upset when you use my Christ's name as a weapon, as a weapon to control other people and how they live their lives. So I would like to apologize, because my intention wasn't to offend you, but I also need to point out that I can't be offended by you either. Like, but you offend me with your actions when you weaponize Christianity, and you pick and choose what words from the Bible you're going to use as rules. That's offensive to me. It's like I'm not an all or nothing person, but when it comes to the Bible, it's like an all or nothing kind of thing. You can't say, well, we don't follow any rules because of progress, but then you're going to follow these rules because we progressed. It's still progress. Like, progress has to apply to everything, kind of thing. But that's just different arguments people have. It's funny because just in a conversation, now I'm not saying how much of whatever I believe, just in conversation with an older Christian woman, we were talking about the Bible being the Word. And my belief for many years, and I actually kind of learned this in a Catholic catechism class, was about its translation, and it's written down. And I said, to me, the Bible is, what I say, 2,000 years of telephone, or I think it's 2,000 or 5,000 years before somebody actually wrote the first scripts down, like the ancient scrolls. And it's telephone is like the story where you tell somebody something and then they re-talk about it. So then that person would say, well, it's written by God. No, written by God. No, it's written by man, inspired by God, or spoken by God, written by man. Something along those lines. Like, I feel like that was kind of the thing that we talk about, like how it's, some people believe that it's just it's supposed to be like a guidebook. It's so when it comes to things where I will have like a disagreement with something in there, they'll be like, well, it was interpreted by man. And then when I'll say, well, then why do you believe this part so vehemently or whatever? And then they're like, well, it's God's word. And I'm like, well, it's what you're saying is contradictory. So it's kind of like that's why I mean about choosing your what you want to believe, using it, like weaponizing it, weaponizing the word. I mean, what ultimately comes down is that Jesus was, I'm the new, everything before me is old. And not that we shouldn't follow the 10 Commandments, obviously, but, the great commandment was, depending on your version of the Bible, I'm God, to treat others as you treat me, treat others as you treat yourself, do unto others. Like, there's all these different versions, but the great commandment is basically like, hey, it's all about love. It's all about respect and caring for each other. Like, that's the message. The message is love and caring and respect for each other. So all that being said was just like, it's why, like, I can understand why people would call my Christianity into question. I'm a Christian, but I'm not religious. I don't go to church every week, but I don't know that that's a necessary part. There's all these different reasons, like, why church is necessary and is not necessary. And we could sit here and have that argument for all day, but we won't. But anyway, then somebody jumped in the comments right away and said, why is it unchristian like that I want to have you save your life? Like, to protect yourself. It's just so weird. And to protect the children. But anyway, all of that was to remind me of a story. And it was a story one of you guys shared in the comments. And I thought it was the perfect, I want to say parable, but it's the perfect story to explain why I think that the vaccine is important and not anti-Christian. So you might have heard this before. So if you haven't, just bear with me. I mean, if you have, bear with me. If you haven't, just listen to me for a second. So there's a man on his rooftop during a flood. And his whole house is submerged except his roof. And a boat comes by. And he goes, jump, jump. And they're like, no. My God will save me. And the boat leaves. And a couple hours later, the water starts to rise. And it's now starting to, be on his roof. And another boat comes by and he goes, they're like, jump. And he's like, no. My God will save me. My God will save me. My God in heaven. They're like, okay. So they leave. And then a couple hours later, the water is just to his feet, practically to his feet. And another boat comes by and they're like, jump, come on, jump. And he's like, no. My God will save me. And they're like, come on, please. And they're like, no, my God will save me. So the boat leaves. And the man eventually drowns. And he goes to heaven. And he sees God. And he gets a chance to talk to him. And he says, God, why didn't you save me? He goes, I sent 3 boats. Okay, so that's like kind of a joke, but it's really a true story. So we have to figure out what the message is. Okay, so whether or not you believe that this virus, I know some people believe this virus was man-made or nature-made, or I don't care. That is really not important. How it started, where it started, we're just looking to blame somebody, and nothing is gained from blame. We've talked about that before. There's nothing gained from blame. What it is you have a problem here. Let's find a solution. We could deal with what we have in front of us, and that's what's most important. Okay? Whether it's genetic, whether it's those guys are digging in the ice for 10,000-year-old germs. No, don't do that. But I understand why they're doing it. And that's another story for another day, I think. But anyway, wherever it started, it's here. It's here now, and it's mutating, and it's trying to wipe out people. And it's not natural selection, but it's I don't know. That was rude, but I just feel like God gave us the boat. God gave us the group of men and women, doctors and scientists from all nations, got together, shared their research, shared their studies, created this vaccine so that we could be protected. You understand? So we could be saved. So we need to get in the boat. Now, one of the things we didn't really touch on much was masks. Again, we've talked about this before. We don't wear masks to protect ourselves. You can, like if you have an N95 mask, that will help protect you. But we wear masks to protect others. We get the vaccine to help us, but to also help others. Okay? Because it can keep this virus from mutating further. Now, the mask thing is really the best way I can ever say is when you have surgery, the patient doesn't wear a mask, the surgeon does. Excuse me. That's how I always say, as a metaphor, not a metaphor, but to help you realize why we wear masks. We don't wear masks to protect ourselves. We wear masks to protect others. Now, if you're vaccinated, you still can carry the germ. You can still get COVID. you could still pass on COVID. So that's why it's important that we wear masks. Okay? And when we breathe in our masks, it's not a little cesspool of germs. Okay? I see all these like images of people just having like cesspools of germs around their mouth. It's not, it's your body's stuff. That's just your body stuff. So, if you have it, you're getting it, you're not getting it back. It's just like, you can't get rid of it. So, I mean, it might be controversial. I don't care. It shouldn't be controversial. It's dumb. I'm not saying you're dumb for having your decisions, but the whole fact that somebody made this controversial, that somebody made this political, that's the part that I think is dumb. It is. And it's funny because people who are anti-COVID vaccine are vaccinated from other things. Like they've all gotten their polio vaccines and their rubella, MMR vaccines, and like all these things, they have been vaccinated. I know there are some people who are anti-vaccination, period. And I understand like whatever they're thinking. I mean, I don't understand what they're thinking, but I understand. Okay. I hear your feelings. Validate your feelings. The proof isn't in the pudding kind of thing. Some people are concerned about vaccines causing autism, and, there is no evidence, true evidence that supports that, but there are also still studies about it. So they're still studying why, when some kids get vaccinated, they're still studying why some kids get autism. There's just all of these things like, so we get it. I get it. I totally, truly get it. Working with many people with autism, I can understand the concern, However, having a 40-year-old with autism is probably better than having a dead baby from smallpox. I'm just saying. In my opinion, I'm not a mother, so. To me, that seems like that would be the best scenario. Because so many people with autism are just so sweet. I mean, I know a lot of them have behavioral issues. A lot of them have problems in developing and communication and stuff. But oh my gosh, did I just know the most amazing people with autism. Ugh. Can't imagine the world without them, Anyhow, I digress. Pocus. I feel like I want to move you guys around a little bit. So hang on. Let me put my water here. Let me put my basket here. Move my tray here. I say tray, but it's really the iPad. I use the iPad as a coffee holder. I really need to do that because I need to reposition a little bit. So, okay. There we go. That's good. Oh. Excuse me. So anyhow, I didn't mean for it to become a painful moment for people, but I truly had this thing about educating myself before I educate others, and obviously I did read. I did learn these things. I did learn these things, and I passed this information on. But no, I don't read well. I don't have the attention span to read. I can read articles, so that's why I studied the information a little bit. But I don't have the attention span to read novels. So, I did educate myself what I thought was reading the right information, and that's another thing. Where are you getting your information from? Where's the source of the information coming from? Then there's this whole thing about throwing tests out, or here's the thing, and I think this is the major part that we have to think about. And I do understand that what I'm about to say, people will use as an argument against it. But we're still learning. And what we've learned so far is this. And what we can learn in the future, like, what we don't change their minds. They keep learning things. So, I'm so sorry. There's like a hangnail here, and I'm just trying. It's not a hangnail, it's a cuticle, but it feels like it's getting caught on everything I move my hand on, too. Okay. I don't know if you noticed, but no rings. They all fell off because my fingers got too skinny. I even tried putting them on different fingers, but they fell off of them, too. That fell white. We'll get new ones. We'll fix the old ones. Anyway. Okay. I'm having this conversation with a friend who received psychiatric help 30 years ago for a problem and had adverse reactions, and has spent the last 30 years going, I'm never going to a psychiatrist again. But has been battling mental illness for 30 years. So first argument is, well, maybe you had a bad doctor or a bad group of doctors. Just because you had a bad experience doesn't mean it's like everything's bad, But this person is a very black and white sort of, it has to be reminded about the gray areas or whatever. But it's important to remember that in 30 years, there's been major advancements in mental health research and medications. And, I think 30 years ago, it was like you either were psychotic or you had bipolar disorder or depression, or I don't even know if they called it bipolar then. 30 years ago, did they have bipolar? Probably. I would say manic depression was the original, like, bipolar is, it's just all these things. Like, they've done so much work over the years to try to figure out and learn and to improve our lives. Why wouldn't we utilize that to our advantage or utilize it for our benefit? It's just sort of like, don't just take a one and done type of thing. You gotta realize that we learn, we grow. But I understand some people use that as a reason to not get the vaccine because they don't know everything yet, and it's not FDA approved yet. But I saw a really good scale model of how the approval process of a medication, and how because of the pandemic, because it's EUA, emergency usage something, can't remember what that is, but basically when there's something like a pandemic or like a major outspread of something, they'll do is production alongside of the sort of approval trial process, because, and it will cost the company money if something happens and they have to recall it all, but it's just that they want to make sure they get it out as quick as possible, as opposed to the regular research that kind of goes like, you do all of your studies first and then you do all your production second. It was a pretty good, interesting piece of information. I just am concerned for you guys. I'm not concerned for myself right now because I'm in bed. I've been vaccinated. I'm eligible to get a booster because of my pre-existing conditions and all my immunocompromisation. but I don't know when or where that's going to be available in the area. But I wear my mask and I wash my hands and I sanitize things and I do all these things because I don't want to get sick. I don't want to make my family sick. I don't want to make my community sick. And I don't understand why anybody would, like, use that as an argument. Like, that to me is like, that's, like, what? And I don't want to call people selfish because literally that's what a lot of the pro-vaccine community is saying, that these people are selfish, because I think they're not selfish. I don't think they're doing it because they're selfish. I think they're doing it out of self-preservation because they have misinformation. That's what I think it is. So I don't think they're being intentionally selfish. Now, I'm not saying everybody's not, and I'm not saying there's no selfish people out there. I'm just saying, like, I think the majority of the people are being using self-preservation, but based on misinformation, And I've mentioned it before, and I will mention it again. If you're looking for a reliable news source, only broadcast television is required to report just the truth. Now, does it report everything? No. Does it still, base our information on fear mongering? Yes. It always starts with bad news, Not always, but most of the time. I said I'll start watching the news when they have the All Good News channel, and there is actually an Instagram page called Good News Channel, so they post good news every day, multiple times a day, actually. People just, good life stories, that they're kind to each other and share each other and that kind of thing. So there is good in the world. So I mentioned in a comment about my brother. So I know I mentioned before, because people were attacking us about why we qualified for the PPP loan, because my job wasn't affected by the pandemic. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that I could use as an excuse, or use for a reason, or whatever you guys wanted to say. Stop making excuses, you say all the time. The truth is that even if I just based it on the fact that I was depressed because my brother passed away. So my brother had COVID in February of 2020. Before, he lived in New York, and that was like one of the hot zones. And, excuse me. Before they knew what it was and how to protect yourself, he acquired it. Now, he did go to the hospital, but was not on a ventilator, or, basically they were able to just give him oxygen and breathing treatments. But of course, at the time too, they didn't realize that there was this long haulers, what they call long haulers. Basically, people are spouting that there's a 99% survival rate, and that is true, but there's not 100% of survivors survive. They don't die, but there is so many that have this long haulers, like, are ill affected forever. My sister-in-law had a really long battle with pneumonia after her second round of COVID that she got. But the blood clotting, so we had this argument about people who die from COVID don't really die from COVID. They die from a pre-existing condition, possibly. Many, they're not throwing the numbers off. But here's the thing. And I'll tell you about my brother, and I wrote this in the comments. So if you read the comments, I'm sorry if you're getting a repeat story, but my brother had a blood clotting issue. He was in a car accident in 1999, the day before the millennium, and like the day before Y2K, and he often would get and throw blood clots. So this was something that he was required, medication was required for, and he had worked on computers, so he had sort of that sedentary lifestyle that caused it to exacerbate or whatever, right? But in all the years that he's had it, that was 20 years, 20 years of having like blood clots. He never had anything like, he had hospital admissions, but never like major treatments. They would just do like break down the blood clots and he'd go about his business. Twice they were in his lungs. 3 times? Maybe 3 times. But he always survived from them. There was always something that he just kept going. And he could have survived with this blood clotting disorder for, till he was 70. And, that's the thing. People have pre-existing conditions like asthma, or they've just gone cancer treatments. The argument for some people is COVID didn't kill them, cancer did. Well, the cancer, either wasn't going to kill them until the COVID came, or the COVID accelerated their demise. And regardless of what you think, I would kill to have those 30 years back with my brother. We could reconcile. He could probably continue to have a great life, travel, maybe fall in love again, whatever. So the fact that he had COVID, and one of the COVID side effects was the lungs clotting more and more clots in the lungs. And this was happening to people who didn't have blood clotting disorders. So it was exacerbated in my brother. So my brother died from a pulmonary embolism, but an underlying cause was his previous battle with COVID. So do you understand? Do you understand that this happens to people? So, yes, he died from a pulmonary embolism because he had blood clots, and is as someone who had a blood clotting disorder, yes. However, the COVID amped it, triggered it, exacerbated, whatever you want to say. It's an underlying factor. So if somebody has asthma, or say someone has asthma, and they're surviving every day with their asthma, they take their treatments, they have asthma attacks, they use their rescue inhaler. Twice in the last 15 years, they had to get hospitalized to get extra treatments or oxygen. And they get COVID, and then they have less lung capacity. They survive COVID, and they have less lung capacity. And then they end up having scarred lungs, and then they end up dying from an asthma attack that normally they would have survived. So that's why we say, yes, COVID was a factor, because COVID has ruined their system or affected their system that allowed his normal body functions to work. I think about these kinds of things all the time, because I hear all of this nonsense about they didn't die from COVID, they died from a heart attack. Yes, but COVID destroyed their heart. Being on the ventilator destroyed their heart and weakened it immensely. And that's why they had a heart attack. So it's stuff like that. It's like, and there are people who die from COVID. They stop breathing. They're on a ventilator because of COVID, and then they get, they're brain dead because their lack of oxygen because of COVID. And, there's people who go through ECMO and they're on the ventilator. And ECMO is basically where they just oxygenate your blood and send it back into your body as oxygenated. And they still only have 85% oxygenation level. Even though they're doing this, their body still can't. And having not enough oxygen to your brain causes brain damage, causes heart damage. All of your organs are affected. To me, it's just okay, this was kind of the funniest part that I know that a lot of people are throwing in faces, but they're you don't trust the doctors enough to get your vaccine, but when you get sick, you're going to go see your doctor. Huh? I did hear one new thing from a doctor, from a what is he? Was he ER surgeon? Is he a surgeon? I'm trying to remember what this doctor is. He's either an ER doctor or surgeon. There's two doctors that I follow that look very similar, and I always figure out which one's which. But so this doctor gave a statistic, a new thing yesterday to encourage people to get their vaccines. Insurance companies last year were paying for all their COVID treatment. Like if you had to go to the hospital and be on a ventilator, get medication, whatever, because there was no treatment for it or no way to prevent it. Now, many insurance companies are are refusing to pay treatments for those who refused to get the vaccine but then got COVID. And they'll be saddled with tens of thousands of dollars worth of medical bills because their insurance won't pay for it. Because they had the opportunity to prevent this disease. It's just so weird, Like, it's just so weird. So if caring for your others and caring for yourself and science and doctors aren't enough, maybe money's a motivation. Maybe that's a good motivation for you. I feel like this is like a bouffant type of thing. I got an Elvis do going on, right? Maybe money's a motivation. Maybe that's what you need, just to be like, hey, you should get your vaccine, or else if you get hospitalized, you're tens of thousands. What's really funny to me is that people are like, it's got a 99% survival rate, and we'll forget about the long haulers thing. I actually follow this one woman who has long-term effects that I didn't know. She's deaf in one ear, and she constantly falls because of her equilibrium. She hasn't learned how to be deaf in one ear yet. So she's deaf in one ear. She has lung damage, where now she has to take medication every day. And there was one other organ that was affected, and unfortunately I can't remember it right now. But she just has things like, when she told me about the deafness, I was like, what? And makes perfect sense. If it can affect your taste and your smell and all these things, then of course, do whatever. But, and anytime you spike a fever, you risk damaging parts of your body too. That's another thing. But it was just like so interesting to me that I didn't realize that all of the things that could happen wrong, So despite the long haulers, it's got a 99% survival rate. And I don't mean to do air quotes because that's the actual quote. It has a 99% survival rate. But when it's almost 100% preventable, why would you even take that 1% risk? And actually, I don't even know if that statistic is 100% anymore, because more people have died. So I think the percentage probably went to 98 or 98.5 or something. Your chances of surviving. If you like Twitter, or used to like Twitter, Twitter has a lot of really good doctors and nurses telling stories. They don't give any personal information. They just say like a general 47-year-old, 27-year-old woman, 27-year-old woman pregnant, refused to get the vaccine even after she contracted COVID, and she refused to be intubated. No, that was the 14-year-old. The parents refused to intubate their daughter. And she died at 14, struggling to breathe. It's just so much it makes me smack my head, because we're supposed to be the number one nation. Like, you guys want to be like, this is the greatest country in the world, and we're first in this and first in that and first in that. But like, where are all of these like free thinkers, and where are all the people who just like want to educate themselves and don't just follow it's funny because somebody called me a sheep in the comments, and I was waiting for somebody to call me a sheep for the longest time. First of all, I tell everybody I am a sheep, because I follow the Great Shepherd. That's one. Second, I'm a sheep, but I think for myself. You're the one who's actually like following the misinformation person and the fearmongerer. It's like, who is the sheep really? You know, like, who is the, I said, and then the third is, I always say, I'd rather be a sheep than a lemur. Not a lemur, oh gosh. Not a lemur. Oh, why did it just go out of my head? Is it? Not a lemur. Jeez. I'd rather be a sheep than a lemming. I'd rather be a sheep than a lemming. So, sheeps follow a shepherd. They follow other sheeps. But they follow them and they won't go to their own demise. Like, if a shepherd decided to lead one sheep, push one sheep off the cliff, the other ones won't go. But a lemming, the first lemming jumps off the cliff, the rest of them will follow. Yeah, I'd rather be a sheep than a lemming. True story. So, I just think it's funny. Like, they're using sheep as a thing. I'm like, okay. I'd rather be a vaccinated sheep than a dead lemming. Just saying. Well, this turned out to be not a positive vlog, unfortunately. I'd like to add some positivity to it right now because obviously I was hurting, so I needed to get some stuff off my chest from comments, but I also was hurting a lot. And I know I started out by saying thanks. I'm so grateful for all of my friends from YouTube who have really just been there for me in one form or another, whether it's just chatting every day, checking up on me, being so generous with their, just being so generous, let's just say that way. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. I will tell you that I will continue to choose joy. I will continue to find the joy in the moment. Again, every time, if the pain goes like that, then I say like, oh, at least you can feel the pain. You know, your leg is still there. Just so grateful. It's gonna sound weird, but you know, it was a concern for Jim when I first hurt my leg. You know, he automatically goes to that his father had to have his leg amputated. And I'm like, no, I've got good color and range of motion. It's okay, you know, but, you know, it's like that. Like, I'm grateful for that. I am truly, truly grateful for that. I'm grateful that I'm 6 foot up. I'm grateful that I have a partner that, though he struggles, is here for me. I'm grateful that I have a mother-in-law that understands what I'm going through. I'm grateful that I have friends and family who encourage me every day to just do what I can, listen to the doctors, don't push myself, whatever the need be at the time. I'm so grateful for it. Look at my arm. It's cold. I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for you all being here for me. I often say that this pain is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And in all fairness, I don't have enemies, so that's the part that's kind of weird. There's only one person that I ever knew growing up that I hated, like despised. Everybody else I just disliked. There's a huge difference in that for me, by the way. One is a person who likes to, like, causes you upset. The other ones are just like, yeah, I don't like you anyway. So you can say whatever you want about me. I don't like you anyway. But I don't even know that it's warranted. At this point, as an adult, I realize I don't know that my hate was warranted. It could be something that I was misreading, or the vibe that I was getting could have been wrong. I know more things now than I did then, type of thing. But I don't have any enemies, so I really wouldn't wish this on anybody. Enemy or not, you know? Well, I love you guys. I think I have to wrap it up because I think I might have to move to the other side already, which is kind of soon. Because I just got here when I started talking, so 45 minutes ago. It's kind of... I usually can stay in this position for a couple hours, but right now I have to move, so... I wanted to thank everybody again for joining me. I love you guys. Don't forget, finish your coffee. I'll join you guys again tomorrow. I think tomorrow. I am so grateful again for every single one of you who support me in the channel. I love you guys. As always, you take care. God bless. We'll see you next time. Bye.